Is that good?
Mhm.
Pick that up. All righty, we will go ahead and get started. This is the Board of County Commissioner meeting on July 8th, 2025. This meeting will be streamed live on the RBC YouTube channel. I'm calling this meeting to order at 11:01 a.m. and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment period. Any member of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you are addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you are requested to limit your comments to 3 minutes per member or 5 minutes per group. The public comment time is not for questions and answers. It is your time to express your views. To ensure there is adequate public comment time, please provide your name and address prior to the meeting by contacting the board assistant at 970-878-9575. If any member of the public would like to comment at this time, please state your name and address for the record. We will begin within the room. Any public comment within the room? Seeing none. Any public comments online? Not seeing any online. This is a tentative agenda which includes all information available as of June 30th, 2025. The final tentative agenda will be posted at the RBC Historic Courthouse, 555 Main Street, Meeker, Colorado, and at the Rangeley Town Hall, 209 East Main Street, Rangeley. I would like to move on to line item D.
Chairman, I will make a motion that we approve the agenda as posted.
And I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Will you please call the roll?
Scritchfield. Aye. O'Hairey.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to line item 2, consent items, line item A.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the below list items on the consent agenda, and that would be the payroll management report for July 4th, accounts payable management reports for June, meeting minutes for June 24th, motor vehicle DMV report for June of 25, and DHS EBT register and warrant register for June.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments from either of you? No. Will you please call the roll?
Scritchfield. Aye. O'Hairey.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to line item 3, business. We will be first discussing the hazard mitigation plan RFP. So Doug, we have Doug online.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great.
The floor is yours, sir.
Great. Okay, so I'll start with just our process is that we went through BidNet and we had approximately about a 1-month opening to look for a consulting firm that would be able to do our HMP. We have a grant for that for this year. It basically terminates in July. So it's one of those things that we have to get on pretty quick. And so we ended up, when we had the BidNet survey, which ended, I think just this last Monday. And we received 4 qualifying bids. The price ranges were pretty close, the lowest being $48,000, the highest being $70,000. But 3 of them were $62,000, $68,000, and $70,000. And so they were all fairly close with each other, all to good news, falls underneath what we have for the grant. We have $77,000 for the grant, which we have to meet 10% of that with in-kind contributions. So that's not only my time in managing the project, but also the, fire districts and whatever time that they submit, the county sheriff, the towns, police departments, all of them, just any time that's spent on that. And it should be no problem being able to reach our in-kind contributions without any extra money going out. It's just the time that we're all spending towards this project. So with that, I did a review of the 4 projects that came in, and I kind of ranked them in order. The way that I looked at this was, one, to make sure that they did fall underneath the grant, so we did not have any extra money that we are not accounting for, to go out, which they all met. The second one was that we wanted to make sure that they did have good project experience, and some obviously had a lot more than others. And another one was, how many projects have they done in Colorado that, they really spoke to what we have in Rio Blanco with the wildfire aspects, the oil and gas, all of those things where they actually have a lot of experience in the things that we would have a higher risk than, let's say, Virginia or Florida. And so we really wanted to look at that specialty and that niche. So who came out on top, and I'll show the kind of the rankings of it, but who came out on top was JEO, and they ended up, not only did they do our last hazard mitigation plan 5 years ago for Rio Blanco, they also did the Rio Blanco Community Wildfire Protection Plan that was done almost 2 years ago, and it was approved, I think, just a little over a year ago. They also, I'm familiar with them because they also did Eagle Counties a couple years ago when I was participating in a lot of the Eagle County aspects of it. And in all 3 projects, we received good feedback from those who had worked with JEO that they had done a great job. Their end product is great. And only 2 of the companies that submitted had a deadline that they would be approved by December 31st, which is great. One of the recommendations for us were that we at least had the final draft to submit to FEMA and Colorado Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. But these 2 have a timeline that actually would be able to meet that and get approval. So that was also really important for us. So I ranked them as JEO Consulting was number 1. The Resiliency Initiative came in as second at $62,000, but did not have nearly the same Colorado experience with their projects. Chileta, they're a huge company that does a ton of stuff, not only teaching and everything else. They have a ton of experience, but most of it is New York and kind of California projects, not a ton in Colorado. They were at $68,000. And then Advanced Emergency Management Tech had the least amount of experience listed in their proposal, but they were the lowest cost at $48,000. So they were a lot less. I think it looks like they were just entering the business of HMP consulting. But through all that, the JEO really came out on top for all of those, and felt that the risk is a lot lower, that we do have a working relationship with them. They all obviously have experience with working with Rio Blanco, having doing 2 projects over the last 5 years. And the feedback that we received of those who worked with them was good. And so it's a known product. And with it being under the grant amount, that would be my recommendation to move forward with JEO. And if I'm willing to answer any questions possible without going into the 30-page proposals that most of them put together. I don't want to take that kind of time, but willing to answer any questions that the commissioners might have through that selection process.
I don't have any questions. I'm comfortable with your recommendation.
Doug, this is Callie. I did work with them a little bit here locally, and I guess I would just caution you to, it appeared as though timelines might have been a challenge. So you'll just want to stay on top of that. And that could have not been their fault. I don't know for sure, but there was some timeline issues there.
Okay.
but just be aware.
Okay, great. I definitely appreciate the feedback and yeah, as some of these go, the meetings and the public meetings become really difficult to schedule and to get those, and not to make an excuse for them, but that is kind of a typical game that happens out there, is that they're really dependent on a lot of meetings that have to be scheduled with a lot of agencies in each county. And you know how difficult it is to have meetings on a regular schedule and get everyone at the table. But that sometimes definitely happens out in the field of the mitigation planning process. But we'll definitely keep an eye on it for sure.
I think with your management of it, we'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So, thank you.
So, Doug, on that, I guess that my only question is, the contract was included as a part of the RFP. So is that something that you're, Dawn, that is our standard contract that we've used? I didn't notice any changes on that. Do we need to have another meeting before the commissioners execute that? Or is it something that, based on the RFP, that Doug can go ahead and proceed with getting JEO signed up and then get us the contract with commissioners to execute?
Vicky, I don't think we need to have another meeting. I think the commissioners, if they're desirous of executing a standard contract with that, they just need to make a moment. And then, I always like to put it in there, if I see something after it looks like it's, that's different than what we put in the standard contract, then I can always, require those corrections to be made.
So I can just make a motion to accept the JBO bid and
Or the con?
award the contract with your approval.
Yes, that would be fine.
And I second.
So many.
I have a motion and a second. Anything else on that?
Is it JBO?
JE is in Edward.
Okay,
E.
sorry.
No, I wasn't sure. I didn't have it written down at all that way.
I didn't either.
So
Okay.
I misheard.
Perfect. Will you please call the roll?
Scritchfield.
Aye.
O'Haron.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, Doug.
Thank
We're
you,
trying to
Doug.
keep the fires down for you, buddy.
It has definitely helped work on this project without distractions of the fire season. So it's good timing. And I'll work with Don on of getting that contract up and implemented and signed. And we'll just, if there's any questions or concerns, we can take it back to the commissioners. But so thank you. Appreciate it. We're ready to move forward with it.
Yes.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Moving on to line item B.
Is that one mine?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the award of the construction contract for the 2025 Meeker Coulter Field General Aviation GA ramp construction project to Elevated Excavating, Inc. in the combined total amount of $3,009,097.01, which includes both Schedule 1, which is the FAA eligible, and Schedule 2, non-FAA eligible work. Yeah, I don't think that needs to be part of the.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second. We have Eric here. Help us with this.
Do you guys have any questions on this?
Looks like it was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Authorizations requested for. Let's see, so maybe I should have put that in the contract that, no, sorry, I'm just talking to myself.
No, you're fine.
I include that in the note in the response. It didn't need to be added, but yeah, we received 3 bids. United was providing the paving for all 3 bids and elevated excavating bid, including United.
I'm good with it.
You have anything?
No, I'm,
Will you please call the roll?
O'Hairn.
Aye.
Scritchfield.
aye,
Got out of order. What do you mean?
Motion passes. Moving on to line item C.
Line item C is, it was combined in no vote.
I wondered
So-
about that.
We don't necessarily need to have line item C with the verbiage in line item.
Perfect.
That was part of B.
B1.
Moving on to line item D.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the work order number 4 with Graver LLC for the construction phase services related to the EEO Meeker Airport General Aviation Ramp Reconstruction Project in accordance with the master agreement for the professional services. This work order provides for construction phase professional services for the reconstruction of the existing GA ramp at the Meeker Airport.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anything additional you want to add to this?
The only thing is, typically, in this matter with these projects, you have the engineering, design and engineering phase, and we've completed that for this project. And then this is the engineering oversight during the construction phase. Both, phases were independently, third-party review of the fee on the engineering services. Per FAA requirements, it has to be within 5%. Both fees were done independently reviewed by a third party, and they were within the 5%. They were pretty close.
Very good. Any questions?
No,
All right, will you please call the roll?
O'Hairn.
Aye.
Scritchfield.
Aye.
Overton.
aye,
Moving on to line item E.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the letter regarding the competitive oil and gas lease sale that we discussed in the work session, including the edits that we had suggested.
we'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. We did go into pretty good depth with this during the work session. I'm asking Reese to make a couple of additions and edits is what we asked of him. So just trying to get this moved forward before it's due and let him make those edits and verify with us. Will you please call the roll?
O'Hairn.
Aye.
Scritchfield.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye,
Moving on to line item F.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve a letter of opposition to the Energy and Carbon Management Commission of the proposed rulemaking petition for the Wild Earth Guardians docket 2505000081.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We also discussed this one during our work session, asking Reese, our natural resource director, to make some edits to it. So he'll be doing that. Again, trying to get these letters out before our next DOCC meeting. Will you please call the roll?
O'Hairn.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye,
Scritchfield.
Motion passes. Moving on to line item G.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the authorization for Rio Blanco County to join Mesa and Garfield counties in signing a joint letter to Secretary of Interior Doug Burgum in support of full federal investment in the Shoshone Water Rights Preservation Project.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do either one of you want to elaborate on that one?
This is the water rights that for the Glenwood Canyon power plant water rights that are going to remain part of the Western Slope if we can get the money to finish this off, and some of the money's being held up in the federal government now, and that's what we're asking for, is that they turn it loose to finish this project up, which is very, very important to the Western Slope.
And it's in the, right at $40 million, I think, from the feds that
That's what we're asking.
was awarded, but then of course it got held up with it. So, and there are projects like this that they are releasing the money on, so I believe that they will.
Fingers crossed, yes.
And then there'll be the water court case. Because our Eastern Slope folks are opposing it.
Will you please call the roll?
Overton,
Aye.
Scritchfield,
I,
O'Hairn,
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to resolutions, line item A.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve resolution 2025-21, a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Rio Blanco County voiding a certain check.
I'll second it so we can get the name and number of that check. What's our check?
I have a motion and a second.
oh, it should be on the, I apologize, it should have been in the attached on there.
It looks like Johnson Controls for $2,731.17.
Yes, and what happened is that check included invoices from back in December and early January. It never cleared. And so then Eric was able to get in there and pay those by credit card. And so that's why we're voiding the check.
How much was it for again? Sorry.
2,700 and 2,700. $31.17.
Couldn't find it. Looking right at it.
Will you please call the roll?
I,
O'Hairn.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to public hearings. We will be hearing from Mr. Leaf Joy on Hilke Minor Subdivision PSUB 0004-25.
Mouthful, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you.
More letters and numbers, the more important percent.
thank you. Thank you, sir.
Well, I just included this little 11x17 as a supplement to your digital submittal that you guys all have. So with your permission, you want me to go forth and do the staff report?
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a minor subdivision request from Don and Rosemary Hilke on behalf of Rhonda and her husband out here on the Mesa. They're doing some estate planning. They're just doing a single lot subdivision that will include an existing home that's already there where Don and Rosemary live. We talk about them like we all know them, but, and we do, so everybody knows Don and Rosemary. So we sent this out for referral agency review. Town of Meeker had no objections. Town of Rangeley, no objections. Rio Blanco County Treasurer reported that taxes were paid in full. There were no objections. The Army Corps of Engineers had no objections. CDOT had no objections. The only interesting response that we did receive was the Division of Water Resources post May now. So we have some adjustments in the water and the rights and the permits from the wells. So the existing well that was there had a few issues with how it was permitted. The Division of Water Resources respectively worked with the applicant to get that modified, changed, and corrected, even though it was a little post May deadline. The state worked with them well. And they are all correct. We received a final letter approving the well and the subdivision to go forth from the Division of Water Resources. So we have ultimately have no objections. At the Planning Commission meeting on June 26th, we had a vote in favor of approving this, 4 and 0 opposed, with no conditions. On the heels of that, the planning staff recommends approval of PSUB 0004-25 Helke Minor subdivision with no conditions. Any questions? The applicant, obviously, it's not here. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that it's not, I mean, it's basically already done. It's not taking anything out of production.
That is absolutely correct.
So,
In the state planning operation.
Do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
thanks a lot.
So moving on to AI, not AI, but AI.
So let's see. I need to make that motion, right? Okay, so that's a motion. Okay.
Yeah.
So Madam Chair, I would move approval of resolution 2025-19, resolution Board of County Commissioners of Rio Blanco County, Colorado, approving the Hilke Minor Subdivision PSUB 0004-25.
I will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Anything else on this? Will you please call the roll?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to the consideration of PRZ 0003 25 rezoning of Hilke Minor subdivision located on 3776 County Road 13, Meeker, Colorado, Rio Blanco County, Colorado. I don't know if you have any more you want to add.
No, ma'am, just by land use regulation, anything under 30 or under 35 acres will be rezoned to rural residential. So while this still will be agriculturally producing ground, it's a hayfield literally around the house. We have to rezone for our land use regulation. That's pretty much it. That's something.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the rezoning of PRZ 0003 25 rezoning of the Hilke Minor subdivision located on 3776 County Road 13, Meeker, Colorado, Rio Blanco County.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Will you please call the roll?
Aye.
O'Haron.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very
I
much.
will inform the applicant and then get my copy for signature
Perfect.
from Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. We will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Board of Social Services, receiving an update from Carmen McKay with the Department of Human Services as the Director. Come on up.
I don't know if we usually continue reporting through the Board of Social Services. I think we do, right?
That would be a question for Dawn. Dawn, is that something the clerk and recorder should be taking minutes on, or is that really more Carmen's?
I don't think we take
Part.
minutes. I'm just not sure if we record.
I've noticed minutes that he just puts in there that we,
And Dawn's on mute.
Minutes, yeah, need to be taken, but, it doesn't matter. Some counties do it, the clerk and recorders do it, other counties, the director takes them and presents them at the next time, so.
Are you guys okay with me leaving it recording just in case Sean wants it?
Sure.
She doesn't.
I'm good with that.
Hello. So there's a lot going on with us. We don't have a lot of details. I have a meeting tomorrow. tomorrow with the directors to move forward on like, yeah. And what is gonna happen next. Have SNAP on counties, things like that. So that's tomorrow with our, the, oh,
Is that for 2025 as well as twenty
I
twenty-six
think
budget?
just moving forward on what's gonna happen. Because like, there's a lot of questions from us, like, okay, what's next?
So does that mean the last half of 25? Moving forward, you said?
Yes, well, it starts in our new fiscal year, starts July 1. It already started
Okay.
and it ends June.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, just to kind of give you a heads up, we all know that the big beautiful bill did pass. There will be changes with SNAP, and when I pull that up and I've read some of that, some of the discussions have already been discussed, kind of like what would we see if that did pass. So there's some changes with SNAP and Medicaid laid out in that bill. I think you guys all probably have copies of that, right?
Of the big beautiful bill?
Yeah.
No, because it's really big, but
Yeah.
I've seen snippets of it. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it is pretty big. So I only pulled like the SNAP course and Medicaid. And kind of read through some of that.
So I'm gonna, sorry. So I text Congressman Hurd to
Okay.
just make sure that I was understanding, because Carmen and I had met to go over some of those variables. As far as what those impacts are. He didn't really give me any dates except for Medicaid. But with SNAP, he said that anybody under the 6% error rate will still be fully funded. If it goes over the 6 to 8% error rate, it's 95%. And then it goes down from there depending on where your error rate is. So Rio Blanco is at a 0%. And so, it's a huge feat, but and this is one of the things that Carmen and I talked about is, do we put some legislation out there for SNAP? And I don't know that until we meet with CHSDA and CCI. We have a meeting set up next Friday to go over some of these conversations and making sure that the counties in Colorado that are keeping their error rates under that 6% get their full allotment, so that it's not coming back on the counties that are doing their job versus the ones that have that anywhere from 6 to 10% error rate. Because every couple of error rates, it's going down about 5 to 10%. So I would like to see something. I don't know if anybody else is going to support that. I'm sure we'll get kickback probably from the bigger counties because they're
They have
probably
the errors.
they have
That's the error rate.
Yes. So anyway, that's something that Carmen and I talked about. I did send an email to everybody and said we need to have this conversation when we meet next week. And so hopefully we'll know more there. Now to touch up on, do you have a question right now?
So, but the feds are looking at it by the state, right? Or is it by each individual county?
No.
So they're gonna average the
Right now-
state.
Yeah, right now we're at 9.976 as a state.
Wow.
They'll be back up to 10, which would be 100 right now.
Okay.
So
So that's
just to know
where,
that,
yeah, that's
yeah.
gonna be hard, but yes, no, I think it's absolutely worth the battle.
Yeah.
So is that something, I guess the other organizations besides CCI will push that?
That's why with CHSDA, yes, that's why we want to have that conversation with them. Well, their director is going to be on this call. And our lobbyist is from CCI will be on the call. So
See, that's gonna be really hard to do because they've already taken the money.
Yeah.
And if you ask for some of it back, that just increases it. That's gonna be hard to ask for something that's not there.
Yeah, cause
The state
trying to
is
think how
taking it
that'll
away.
work out.
We're
Well,
being
the feds
punished.
have taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're being punished for the people that have the error rates.
And error rates are all contribute to a couple of different things. It's not only on the tech, it's also can be on the client and the state. if something is data entered incorrectly, you know, that can reflect that. And if the state, there's something going on, that can reflect that, because it can come down to timeliness, which our staff is really, really huge on. And processing those applications, that's where the tech part is, that data entry as well. So that's why I think it is important to have that conversation as well, because how is that, you know, the county, individual counties' responsibilities if there's other factors besides just the worker that can contribute to the per rate.
I agree with that, but if I'm understanding correctly, if they're going to take 10% away, and if they then up Rio Blanco's, it's gonna mean that the other people are gonna get 11% off, or 12, or however the number
Yeah,
works
it'll
out.
be hard, but I think, worth a shot.
But yeah, I agree.
We make an issue of it.
We need to, yes, I agree.
Well, to me, maybe just to elaborate a little bit. So yes, they'll take that, we're only gonna get that 85% from the feds because we are at that higher rate. Then those counties that are not doing, that have that higher rate, then it needs to be county only dollars. And why is Rio Blanco County being punished when we are doing our job? And we need to be looking at those same ratios individually within our state. That is, I guess, how I look at it. Were you thinking the same thing? Okay. Any more on that one? Cause then I'll move on to Medicaid, his response on Medicaid, which I found interesting. The Medicaid is a bit more complex, but for Colorado, we maintain the 50-50 split for core Medicaid populations and 90-10 for ACA expansion populations. But beginning in 2028, we ramped down the provider fee limits, which states use to boost federal Medicaid drawdowns by 0.5% per year from 6% to 3.5% over the course of 5 years. So the way that I'm reading this, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that because of the ACA Medicaid expansion that Colorado implemented, they're going to be looking at, we'll lose percentages of that ACA 90-10 over the course of 5 years.
That's what I'm understanding, but again, we're, you know, still kind of in,
Okay.
just so we understand clearly on what.
Okay. So is that another piece of legislation that needs to happen, that we do away with ACA expansion? Or do you think that's ever going to happen in the state of Colorado?
I don't know if it'll happen.
It's an uphill battle if I bring it up. Okay. Still gonna ask, right?
I'd say, why not?
I mean,
So explain expansion to us.
you want to?
You can, if you want, like, and I'll fill in the list.
Fill in.
Yes.
So Medicaid, and this goes back to Obamacare, is what this comes back to, is they allowed during the Biden administration, or am I incorrect on the expansion piece? So the expansion expands who qualifies for Medicaid, and that includes non-citizens. And that's the piece that I know I get stuck on, because they're not paying into our system. They're not paying taxes to then be getting these services under Medicaid. And so they're also expanding it to work requirements with able-bodied now. So before, you didn't have that component, and that was part of that expansion piece, if I'm remembering
Yeah,
correctly.
because initially we had LIFO-LAM, and that's when people, that were not US citizens, basically, and they could come in and, you know, because it's exactly what it sounds like. It's LIFO-LAM. They can get that LIFO-LAM for what was happening at that moment in their life medically. And they had to do, get information from the doctor and stuff to make sure it was and it fell under our life or limb requirements. January 1st of 2025, that expanded a little bit more to have undocumented, be able to apply for Medicaid. It was pregnant women and children up to a certain age.
And the, work requirements is for everyone. Is that true?
They found a certain
Yeah.
age criteria.
Capable person.
Yes. And it's only 20 hours a week, and it can be voluntary. Sorry.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Just making sure I understand.
So, did you have any other questions for me or anything right now? Going to,
Yeah, go ahead. I don't have any more on HR one until we.
okay, so, basically, as you probably know, we will be working on what's next for us. We'll be able to share more I'll be able to share more as I hear myself. There are certain things laid out, like, timeframes when we need to do certain things, of course, within the bill. And so we'll be working on that. We have not heard from HIGPUB if we received our grant. That's supposed to be within the next couple weeks for HIGPUB and everything that happens in those timeframes and education and stuff for our staff. Make sure we're on top of it. Let's see, what else do we have? We did, and I shared this with Jennifer, for the HIGPUB decision summary. There were two different options that were laid out for counties. We did select option A, which is basically that we'll collaborate. There's collaboration between county departments, state departments, that we will work together. So that was chosen because, there's a lot more wording in how the state will have to work with. So that's why me as Rio Blanco decided that option A would be better than option B for us. County. Option B was more or less may engage, whereas option A was shall. There's a lot of more wording. That one. And then I think I know with there was questions about like caseloads and all of that. I did pull our report. Right now we have, and these are again what we discussed the first time I came, is it can be combination of cases like med and food, or just food or just med. So it's just everything right now. Right now our total is 1,130 cases. So that's where we're sitting as far as that goes. We do have our new person, Daisy, is currently training. She just finished her Magi and she's going to go into her SNAP training now. So we're good on that one. Adriana, our child offer, she's doing amazing. And she's up and going as well. So that's I think for us. I can't think of anything else besides. We did get the fact sheet. I did share that with you, Jen, on the air rates. So if you guys do need that to share that with everyone, it's kind of just more of a breakdown of certain things as of July 3rd. Any other questions?
You guys have questions?
I'll have more, like I said, once we have our meeting, stuff like that, but.
I think to answer your question when you had asked, is this something that's going to be implemented sooner than later? My understanding in looking at it and the fact sheets that CHSDA is broken down is I believe SNAP begins in 26 or 27
Yes.
and Medicaid's 28. So we've got a little bit of time to play with it
Yeah.
and figure out what that's gonna look like for us. And that's why if we can get some legislation going, if we can get that support sooner than later, then maybe we'll know where we stand too in our county.
Because they did give more time.
Yes, and that's because of our rate,
Mm.
because we sent that.
Perfect. Anything else?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Alrighty. We will adjourn the Board of Social Services and reconvene as Board of County Commissioners. And we will move on to other business. Road and bridge update. We have that here. Good. How are you?
So road and bridge update for Meeker. Finished up Magic County Road 8. Hauled gravel to County Road 17. Mag part of 17. We mag Sleep Cat Pit Hill. Waited Oak Ridge access. Put some gravel on County Road 63. Gravel to Bachman Pit Hill. We had to remove some trees off County Road 8 and 17. Did some earth bind, which is kind of like a mag on Mason Agency and County Road 36 and at the fairgrounds. Cleaned some culverts on 17. In Rangeley, crack filling on County Road 108, 132, 101, and 132A. Bladed roads 27, 131, 116, 113, 73, 196. Installed 6 culverts on 27, cleaned 4 cattle guards on 27. We did some pit work in Spring Creek and East Douglas. Had a washout on 138 that we filled in. All pit runs to 27 for some culverts and tree trimming on 46 and swept the road on 46.
You tell me about Earthbind. Is this, we've been doing this 2-3 years now?
Done it for 3 years. So Earthbind, it holds the gravel together on the road.
Right.
Plus it also sheds the water, whereas,
I'm sorry, is that after magging it
no,
in place?
you
of-
can do an enhancement, but we haven't done any of the enhancement. We're trying just to find out, because hopefully we don't have to come back and keep doing every year with the Earthbind.
Right. So County Road 33, is that Sheep Creek?
Yeah,
Did you put it on that one?
we haven't been there yet. We're on County Road 15 right now.
How is that feeling? Is it working? Is it?
Yeah, I just actually drove up on Mason Agency and 36, which is baseline, and I like it. You seem to like it too. It sheds the water so it doesn't pick up and get on your car, and like mag, I mean, it's a dust control, but the mag, you drive in it and it gets wet, it'll blow the gravel right off the road, where this is keeping the gravel on the road better.
Well, the other day I was on 12, I guess, there below the house, and it had rained.
Slimy.
Muddy, slick, slimy. I didn't realize it did that. So, and the difference in the cost between them is big, right?
It depends on the, shot ratio. We're playing around with the shot ratio right now of what works better. It's always going to be different from your gravels from one road to the next, and it's about the same. It's a little bit cheaper actually, because we do apply it ourselves.
Well, that's the other, is that in addition to the price of it, you can just do it yourself versus having to pay somebody else.
The cheaper
But-
part, yes.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. And you have to do it 3 or 4 years before.
So 2 years, and then hopefully you can skip a year and then do it again.
Oh, okay.
But again, it just depends on, if you get somebody out there on a tractor or
Somebody help shift.
Yeah,
So does that work better or as well holding the washboards out of a road?
yeah, it's actually better, I think. We're gonna actually put it on, the Bachman Pit Hill this year. Put it on the hill with truck traffic and see how it holds up.
I understand that they did put it on 33 a time or two. Is that right?
We've done it, I think, twice. The first year it did get cut off.
Somebody got
And it-
overzealous
and
with
it-
the blade.
Blew it apart, and then the second year, I don't think the shot ratio was heavy enough.
So I went over Ripple Creek and Dunkley the other day and our roads are in a lot better shape, so thank you. Didn't have near the washboarding, but the other one did.
I did that also, and you can tell where the county line is.
Yeah, yeah, so thank you. It was good.
I'll let you guys know.
Can travel right along. So. And the other thing, thank you for your work and so forth this weekend too. I know you were involved in calls and I did get to have conversations with a lot of the, I shouldn't say a lot, a few contestants, few of the people that were involved in putting the rodeos on and that kind of thing. And everybody had really good things to say. So that was a good thing to see and hear and so forth. So thank you to
Keep on. keep
you
on.
and Nick and Justin. Justin, right? Is that the
Yeah.
young man's name?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's a big job out there. That weekend was pretty
There's a lot on
crazy.
the backside that you don't see.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, no, I get it.
But we hope we never hear about, right?
Right.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to line item B, county attorney update.
The only update I really have today is we have got the information to the attorneys for the Western Slope Colorado Oil and Gas Association for response to the state's motion to dismiss. So I anticipate that will be filed today for the counties and for the Western Slope Oil and Gas Commission or Oil and Gas Association. They did a pretty good job with it. I was very pleased with what it said. We'll see how the court responds. And I think that's really all I have.
We like it when the attorney's report is small because that means we're not in trouble and doing things okay.
Either that or I've been at a wedding in Kansas for the last week.
Anything else? Oh, thank you, Dawn. Moving on to the county administrator update.
Hi, Commissioners. So first and foremost, just to introduce Lynn Lockwood, who is your communications coordinator. She is going to be the new ADA coordinator. So especially on the website and technologies, things like that. So Lynn, thank you. Welcome aboard. That's going to be a huge relief for both, certainly for Chrissy and I, as some of that burden gets, separated out. So we'll have some meetings. I expect Lynn to meet with you each individually at some point to kind of get your thoughts on how you want those communications to work. While she's under my purview, that's one of these things where, she's probably gonna have a lot of interaction with you guys individually. So, just very excited. We actually got her up on the website to start with. So this just started yesterday. So she dove right in and I couldn't have punted faster for her. So, so there is a lot of things, that, we will have in the works and communications especially between her and I and how we handle things and her and Chrissy and her and Laura. And I expect this relationship. She's hit the ground running. So, let's let's see, performance reviews and budget planning. So I still have some, performance reviews that are out there getting finalized and being turned in. Missed the deadline by just a little bit, but there's some departments that had, of course, considerable number of reviews to get done. So I plan on those being done in the next week or so. The next step is to then meet with you guys. The spreadsheet that Laura has prepared where you can play around with the percentages of increases, for instance, or dollar increases, changes of insurance. That spreadsheet, I've asked Laura to revamp that so that it'll put the departments that are together so that you'll be able to identify each department's budget, each office's elected officials' budget separately. I think that will help as we're working through that so you can see those, how those things interact. Again, what we were looking for on that is to be able to have a good view of where we're at, like a high, medium, and a low. If this is the way we keep things, this is that, and we kind of plan on this 3-tier system as we go into the other parts of the budget. Personnel costs is not something necessarily the employee factor part of that is probably not going to change a whole lot. The benefits is what could change. But again, we'll have a clear direction or a better idea of what that is going into the budget rather than on the back side of the budget. So thank you for that. One of the other things I've talked with, one of the things I've got the budget calendar sent out. So hopefully I've got just about everybody's time off. If you emailed me, Jennifer, yours, okay. If you just want to send me an email of the dates you will not be available, then what I'm trying to do is coordinate your schedules with the departments that you're signed up for, and then also time off and things that you need to have off, so that we can work out those individual budget scrubs. And then we will, I'm sorry.
So I was just sitting here thinking, I've probably added things on my calendar since I give you that I may not have communicated to you. So I'll have to look at that again.
Okay.
That'll be the challenge.
Yeah, so, really the time off, because having to balance that between all the different departments will be a little bit of a challenge. Rather than me just pick days, because then, it seems like, there's important reasons why you might want to be off. And it also for the directors and the department heads and the other electeds. So hopefully I'll have that wrapped up, for your adoption on the next meeting. The other piece to that meeting will be a discussion of the granting, whether you decide you want to grant funds or not. I sent you an email the previous week about that. That is another discussion we need to have on that next agenda of, what is your direction regarding grants? So we can have that discussion then, but just be.
And that'll be a work session.
Typically, that can be a work session. I think typically there's been a formal direction on the record of what you guys want to do as far as, whether, I think I'm pretty sure it was a regular meeting where, no, we're not going to do any grants except for emergencies. Or this year is going to be grants that we're going to grant out to other entities outside the county. This is going to be a year where we're going to grant just to inside, the county infrastructure project. So, I think there'll probably be some formal direction that you'll need to give me on that day, on next meeting in Rangeley. My last conversation with Renee is that we have not had any County Board of Equalization appeals as of yet, that she's not been able to settle. That could change at any moment. So I'm not anticipating a full afternoon on Tuesday of appeals, or then that following Wednesday. Not having those yet. Now that could change. Again, we still have time, so don't pencil it in yet. But usually, if they're pretty interested in appealing, we've heard by now. E. Bailey follow-up. You had asked that we put together a kind of the follow-up and the recommendations. That is scheduled for July 17th. So Dawn and Lisa and I got together and kind of worked out some, worked through the report and saying, okay, here's how we think we should tackle these things. And then we will be presenting those ideas to you on the 17th and getting your direction from there. Fairgrounds update, range call, I think went off really, really well. There's always a few minor hiccups. I had some conversations with Commissioner Scritchfield over the weekend, and I think we were able to address concerns. Thanks to Thad and thanks to Nick and Justin. I think things got addressed fairly quickly. One of the things we've been, and I talked that with Callie and I've talked with, Jane, and I'm trying to think who else I talked with is looking at about possibly doing some kind of group that would get together, not a county appointed board like you used to have, which tended to be a challenge when we had the actual fairgrounds board that the commissioners appointed to. More looking at this from a standpoint of maybe a single meeting where we get the range call folks in, the fair board in, some equestrian people, maybe some, I don't know, what other the different events are, because each event can have its own criteria. And talking with Callie, we were looking at the different things that the fairgrounds has historically had, small clinics, large clinics, barrel racers,
Gymkhana.
There was just a lot of different things, and each one may have a different criteria. And really being able to maybe dive in and get what their thoughts are of what works best for them, so that we have kind of more of a way to, when an event comes up, it's going to be a Gymkhana, then we know we're going to have to do these things. Or if it's going to be, barrel racers, they're going to have a different criteria of what that needs to look at. So rather than kind of looking at this as a one-on thing, maybe more, and I know they're working on an application process that says, I'm going to need lights, for instance, and they check a box, and they're going to need this. And we want the grounds watered every 3 hours or every 10 hours, whatever those parameters are. We kind of identify those and get that in a single sheet so people can do more of a smorgasbord, but then we're being fair to everyone and addressing those concerns on the front end rather than having to play catch up on the back end.
Thank you. I'm just sitting here thinking, is that an opportunity to do a post rodeo event like we did with the fair that brings everybody together? And not only can they tell you what they need or but they also hear the opposition or the reasons why we do things, explanations that might, is that an opportunity to do that and get all of that stuff put together?
I think it is. I think it's one of those things, just like with the fair board, we want to make sure that it's not just a gripe session.
Right.
It's let's document the things that we want to see done differently, and not a blame placing or anything like that, but how do we make it even better? One of the things that came up out of the last year's fair board wrap-up meeting was the idea to, increase county employee participation. Well, we've got there, and I'm happy to report, it sounds like we're going to have really good turnout on the setup day of Rio Blanco County employees. It sounds like the fair board has also got several people in the midst that, typically they do that. Typically they've handled that. But, just that whole thought between, having extra support for fairgrounds, for the fair board, for the ladies in 4-H, we can now cover that. And the policy that I've submitted to you all, I haven't heard back, I don't think, from everyone, but I think it's it's a starting place. And maybe this is something that will trickle down to other entities that says, if you're going to volunteer for the Rio Blanco County Fair, at this point, we're going to offer 8 hours of volunteer time off, so our employees can assist with those things that we need to do. Again, there's some criteria in there. They got to make sure that it is something that can be, that their director or their supervisor can allow them to be out during that time. But that was one of the things that generated right out of that. The other thing was having a party, having a this is great. Let's all get together. So we got the hot dogs purchased. We got the chips purchased. I think that's the wrap up thing can be very beneficial. And then getting those folks together that says, we need you to do this so that this goes off smoother.
And just to add to that a little bit, I think that it's more than that. I think that it's all of the problems and all the things we do wrong and the things we do right is more, a lot of times it's just communications. It's just talking about them so that everybody hears the same thing. And I think a meeting like that is really important so that the person that's complaining can listen to somebody else and understand why that stuff is happening. I think that's huge when it comes to that.
They see the bigger picture
Right.
than just my piece of it.
Yes.
Well, and I think too, when you go back to the county tour, asset tour that we took, where we were able to go out and compare or contrast or view, you know, 4 different counties. And of course, the town showed us a couple of different things that they were doing. But just to have everybody in the same room to be able to see, you know, I think it was very eye-opening. And Eric did a phenomenal job showing the differences between the Meeker Airport, the Rangeley Airport, and then Thad and Nick were there and Tina were there to show the difference between, you know, Eric did Columbine Park, but then they represented, you know, the fairgrounds and what does that look like? So I think more of those conversations will happen as we get into it. But I think that's the thing is, you know, don't just come to complain. Let's have a solution. So I thought that, you know, well.
And I did ask, Travis Goodwin, I think I think he's chair now of the range call board. And so we did talk about doing a follow-up meeting. So I expect he'll make that request.
And I do think, you know, we had I received some really good compliments on how everything was ran. So a shout out to Nick. I think, you know, there's room for improvement. We have some things we can do, but I know he spent a lot of hours there as well as Justin, and that was, you know, helping out also as well. So I think it was good team effort. And I think it was a success and looking forward to its success at Fair coming up too. So just looking at some things coming up, we have the RFP bid opening tomorrow on the, looking at those T lines in the fairgrounds bathrooms. Even with restricted access to those bathrooms this weekend, we still had clogged toilet and really clogged, not just one person clogged, but over the top. You think if the water's to the top level and there's tons of toilet paper and stuff in there that you wouldn't use it, but
I thought we were going to close the bathroom.
they were closed except for a few, you know, a smaller number of people. It was not open to the general public. So again, it's not necessarily because of the various beings. I think it's more, it just backed up and people were like, oh, didn't see that and too late now. And so we hope to get that fixed. So I'll let you know how that RFP comes out.
Sooner the better.
Certainly not as bad as it has been in past years. I did get that from Elsa and her staff. It was definitely much, much better. There's only one toilet that was affected, not several of them, and they weren't cleaning up messes on the floor. So, and no vomit this year. Woohoo! And that's usually a big one. So, looking ahead, I've been working with Enterprise and with the other one. Now I'm going to blank on
Unified?
Unified. Thank you. Enterprise and Unified. So on the 23rd, we'll be able to present some options to you guys to even look and determine whether you think leasing is a good point for us or a good thing for us in this time period. We have a follow-up meeting this next week with Enterprise. So with Ryan and Tina, Pat and I, just asking some questions and trying to refine that process. Interestingly enough, the county administrators that I'm on a group with They went back and forth and the results are split between whether they feel like it's been a good thing or a bad thing, whether it's been with Enterprise or with Unify. A lot of outfitting issues, more so with Enterprise, that it takes them close to 6 months to a year to take like a sheriff's vehicle and get it outfitted. Unified seems to be faster on that. But again, it was kind of a mixed bag. So, yeah, we're just kind of have to see that. I already mentioned to you about the fair setup party. So, that will be on July 20th, which is a Sunday from 10 to 2. And then there will be other volunteer opportunities that we will, be able to help, hopefully, throughout those 2 weeks of fair. What else? There will be a dance on Friday night. The county has agreed to help sponsor that. We will be providing the band, and so I'll be working on getting those funds over to the fair board so that they can get that going. We're still not quite sure about where that venue is. It will be at the fairgrounds. We're just making sure that we've got enough power in the places where they wanted to have it, or that by here. I think the last thing I'll just mention is that I went to a really good class this past weekend before last, and it was about understanding a process and then possibly modifying it. And in using Monday, I'm really hopeful that using that Monday software will help me to communicate better with the three of you and get direction, be able to pass that information on in a concise manner, where you're not violating any sunshine laws because you're not communicating together, but that you'll see the direction that, the others are instructing me, so we can have more productive, quicker conversations. And then when we need to set up a work session, we set up a work session or a special meeting or whatever that may be. But I'm really hopeful that this new process will expedite that. That training for you all and making sure you're up on Monday will be on July 23rd. It will, if we have any, I haven't sent you an invite yet if you're looking for one yet. That is the day that we've scheduled for CDO hearings. In anticipation that we might not have those, since we had that blocked off, I went ahead and utilized that thinking, ooh, I've got you captive. We could always pencil them in or before or after. So, and Eric thought it'd take about an hour to make sure that everybody was up and comfortable with it. That's it. I'll send you the report.
All righty, thank you. Yes, Vicki. Moving on to County Commissioner update.
Very on.
Fair, I'll go because mine's fairly brief. So, the Yellow Jacket special work session, we all did that. And then that afternoon went to the AGNC board meeting, and which followed by 2 days of the JOLT conference. I did attend the Colorado Cattlemen's, oh, nope, wrong thing, sorry. That was a while ago. I attended the Interim Ag Water Committee, via Zoom. It was in Denver. The legislative interim committees, they've only got a couple of them they're letting happen this year. And this is one of them. And our Wolf Coalition had set up, I think there were 5 people that spoke to it. And had a really good conversation with that. And then that was followed by an then CPW leadership was a part of the question. It was another panel. And I will say that interim committee, which is made up of both senators and House representatives, were all very, very supportive of the ag guys. I would say there was only one that wasn't necessarily, and I would say that was the chairperson. But they really grilled them and made it pretty clear that because they are over $3 million over the last year on the wolves, and frustrated that it is that much money, and asking a lot of questions as to why, and there's not a lot of answers. Of course, they blame it all on, the costs that they're paying to producers and for the non-lethal and all of that, but that was all a part of the ballot initiative. So Anyway, I think it was very valuable and was worth the while there. Then I met with Vicky to try to help me get started understanding budget stuff, preparing for the next couple of months, and then attended the parade and the rodeo on Sunday. That would be me for the week, 2 weeks.
Okay, we did meet with, Yellow Jacket about the water, trying to figure out how we can assist them with the water at Lake Avery, and I'm gonna be at a meeting tomorrow, session at Lake Avery, so they can present their ideas, what's happening there. We are working on an MOU to present to Yellow Jacket to help them along this process. And I hope that helps. Then I went to the AGNC meeting. And, after the AGNC meeting, we went to the JOLT, Just Organizations Leading Transition. And what we talked about there, or their presentations, were, solar panels, battery storage, geothermal, nuclear, a mix of all of that stuff. And it just was, they had the governor of Wyoming come down and speak at this in Colorado. They asked Mr. Polis to come and he didn't even respond. So they got the governor from Wyoming to come down. And he brought up some points, lightly, politically correct, however you want to say it. But Colorado, and I mentioned this a while ago, Colorado is being a bunch of hypocrites, because we don't want dirty air. We want to save the world by cutting back on oil and gas production and all of that. And the world is not going to wait on us. They need energy. They're going to get it somewhere. And all that does is force them to go across state lines and get it. And most generally, they are creating more pollution than Colorado is. So it doesn't work out. And it just, in the end, it doesn't work out, and we're a bunch of hypocrites. I don't know why they insist on doing that, but it's obvious from where I sit, but we sit different places, I guess. And then we hurried up and came back home to, Meeker. All three of us did, to meet with, Senator Roberts and Representative Lukens about, they gave a report of what they did in the last year. And I think we all three intended on talking to them a little more, but there was enough public participation that we didn't really get a chance. So I think they're going to come back and talk to us later with the commissioners, so we can get a little more in depth with them. And I went on the county assets tour, and that was an eye opener for a lot of people that went. I think it's kind of strange how we get narrowed in on what's in our community and don't look around. I think it helped. Then I went to the Wolf Coalition meeting, and it was brought up that, that they finally got him to admit that they spent $3 million on wolves. And that is way more than the public ever thought it was going to be. The public thought it was going to be in that bill, but somehow that it was going to cost $800,000, and here we are at $3 million. And they asked in that CPW meeting, they asked them to postpone that, and they pretty much got a no. We are going to introduce more wolves, no matter what it costs. So I'm disappointed, and that's my report.
I think I heard a little more tentativeness on that in the joint house
Yeah.
than ag interim committee. I thought it was interesting. In fact, there was an if in there, and they got questioned on it pretty hard.
So that we've got the CPW and the the governor's group, and then we've got the legislation, and you're saying that the legislation is a little,
No, it was CPW speaking to those legislators was a little more iffy on that. I think because remember in the budget, there is that footnote that says
right,
we got to have things in order before you bring more wolves in. So the legislature made their statement there that you get this straightened out or
Yeah.
you don't. And I did forget, I also attended the CPW wolf meeting yesterday, that their special wolf meeting on that pack.
right, and I.
Did you listen in on that?
I
Okay.
listened to that also. I was on the
Okay.
tractor, but I was able to listen to it.
I'm impressed. You're following Jennifer.
Um,
Double
so-
tracking her.
So the other interesting thing that I just remembered is with this Wolf Coalition and what they discussed is in that CPW meeting is they specifically said the reason it cost $3 million is because they did not follow their own plan. That's why they spent all the money, because they did not follow their own plan.
They are not following that plan whatsoever.
So, was there a JBC member at your meeting? I'm just curious.
On the meeting at the
Interim ag.
interim ag,
I mean,
I
I'm
don't
just
know
wondering
who
if
all
that-
it
yeah,
is, but I don't know that I don't know of anybody that was.
Mm.
I think they were all ag people, and I don't know of a very aggy person that is on the JBC.
Okay, I was just curious.
No.
Thank you. I think really quick and you two jump in on this one. We did have a public comment on the healing center last month. And, just wanted to, let everybody know that we do have a moratorium on the healing centers. At this point, until we can figure out our, zoning codes moving forward and making sure that if there is ever one here, that we are doing it safely and soundly for our constituents as well as the people that participate in these healing centers. Unfortunately, with this proposition, the state became more savvy via the marijuana bill that we were able to do a moratorium indefinitely on marijuana stores, I guess is what you would call them. I don't know what you want to call them. So they then did this proposition to create healing centers that people can do basically psychedelics, mushrooms. And you can't do a moratorium, unfortunately, on it. We can do a moratorium just for a short stint to get some things into place to make sure that everybody's safe and well-being is done. Do you guys want to add any more to that? I just wanted to make a comment that I wish we could say there's a forever moratorium on it, quite honestly, but
We appreciate the comment that we got and are sympathetic, but our hands are tied. They learned when we will not let marijuana into the county, they learned that they had to put it in the bill and we can't keep them out now.
okay. I also attended Jolt, AGNC, the Yellow Jacket Lake Avery Dam meeting. I attended a NACO public lands meeting, met with staff as well as Vicky. And I met with, Ellen Parker, the new town of Rangeley, town manager, to talk about, ways that we can be working together. One of them being, I was looking at doing a, CDS grant for 139, and needing that support. And so one of the measures I have to submit that is community input. And I have looked high and low for community input on 139, and community assessments have been done. And it's only mentioned as a recreation road. It's not that it needs to be fixed. And so, Alan and I had that conversation of, you know, how do we get the community input to make sure that, you know, we have that, yes, this is what the community wants in getting 139 done. So that was part of our conversation. He talked to me a little bit about the animal shelter and the condition of the animal shelter in Rangeley. It's seen better days. And so we talked a little bit about, what if you farmed them out? What if what would that look like instead of rebuilding a building? And they already have a building or engineered and ready to be looked into, but it's the cost. And he says, then I hear the severance tax being pulled back, which is going to impact my town. And so anyway, him and I had some really good conversations. Probably spent a couple hours together, and it was his day off. It was the day before 4th of July. So I appreciated him meeting with me. So, talking about severance tax, I found out over the weekend that there is a severance task force, that there was a bill, and I wasn't aware of this.
We knew that until he said that.
And Sean Bolton was appointed by Rose, our representative, Rose Pugliese. She used her appointment with Sean. So we will have at least Rio Blanco County represented on this tax force, which I'm really super excited about.
What that is real quick is the governor has shut down oil and gas, or is shutting it down. So there is no severance tax. So this bill has formed this committee to try and replace severance tax money. And they're supposed to look around and figure out how to do that.
Look out fees.
You're probably right.
Because they can't do taxes without going to the vote, and they can't get that.
So they're just gonna do fees. Yeah,
It's
you're
just fees.
right. Mhm. That's
Yep.
the end of my, did you have something
No,
else?
just a suggestion on 139, look at the accidents and see if you can work that into that somehow, because there's a bunch of.
We, when I say we, I actually met with CDOT, Mark Rogers, and he showed me how to get on, there's a map on CDOT, and it pulls that kind of information, and he was showing, I was actually a little overwhelmed, but there's a lot of data in there that shows any road in Colorado and how many accidents, even how many trucks drive over that road. Like he was saying, that's pretty high. And I said, well, are those producer trucks, operator trucks? And he said, yeah, probably. You're probably right. And I said, and that's where, oil and gas comes over that road. They're tearing it up, and then the state doesn't want to replace it. And so how do we get producers involved or operators involved in that conversation? So yes, Mark did help me pull some of those numbers, but thank you. Yeah.
It was interesting just from my involvement with the fire department in rebuilding the road, county or state 13 going south. It was interesting. It was very obvious that every time they built a section of road, improved it down there, our responses to accidents went way down.
Interesting.
And they just don't have them down there anymore like they used to. That
Don't
does
have all the
help.
people
It helps a
passing
bunch.
where they shouldn't necessarily, because they know there is a passing lane coming up. So I guess the other thing that come to my mind when you're doing research is, the hospital, how many ambulances did they send over the hill? And then just talking to people, doing a survey, and how many people go down there for medical and stuff like that. I know that they can go to Utah too, but I think if the road was decent, they'd probably more go to Grand Junction.
So Kyle, the CEO, him and I, he will put that in his letter of support. If this is, our emergency responses, and what do they call those where they take them over the mountain over to transfer. Thank you. How many transfers they do within a certain time period. So yeah, he's definitely going to do that letter of support for that, because they get bumped around a lot.
Are you still working on that grant, or is it a different time frame now?
It's a different time frame because I only had a couple of weeks, and there was one piece. Well, there was a couple of pieces. But I'm still working on it, so I have a year now where I can,
So I think AG&C will help you write those grants.
yes,
won't they?
Ms. Delaney said she would. Yep,
That's nice.
for sure. Anything else?
We are, as a county, I think I speak for the three of us, that we're in support of 139 getting it fixed, and whatever we gotta do to get it going, we gotta.
And Garfield County is in support as well, and AG&C actually said that they would do a letter of support too for 139, so, and that represents multiple counties.
Is there any opportunity or value in asking CDOT to come and do a work session with us about roads in our county?
Good.
Or maybe do a tour? The road. And if these holes at down 13 keep getting deeper and deeper, they're supposedly were fixed, we could do a loop and have a challenge tour.
Yes,
So anyway, just a thought.
perfect. We will adjourn this meeting as of 12:32. Thanks, everybody.